Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Legion. I've got Sean with me again. This is part two of our rookie draft, 14-team high-stakes league. We've just done round one, so if you want to go and look at that, check it out. It's more in depth, talking about some of the players and their sort of value for next year. Okay, we left last time on Henry Ruggs, so let's talk about T. Higgins. 114. Good talent, but obviously a very crowded wide receiver core at the Bengals with a rookie quarterback. So,
yeah, and look, you have to face some realities with this. I mean, look, Joe Burrow is going to come in with less OTA camp. I mean, this is why we can be quite bold. People have really criticised me on this. How can you dare criticize? Well, how can I? Because I've seen every rookie quarterback ever enter the league since '85. So they've got a very, very strong track record of failure. It's fairly easy. It's not that bold.
Don't go upsetting the Joe Burrow fans again. Sure.
Well, look, the problem he's going to have is he's a talented guy. He could definitely, I said it in the video. If he can just get a few things right and show me the leadership qualities you want at the next level, then maybe he is that guy you're looking for. The trouble is, even with all of that, assuming that that's right, assuming he does do that, there's limited time to spend with his wide receivers. He's got a rookie wide receiver that might have to come in and try and produce from the get-go. It's always tough for rookie quarterbacks coming in. Always tough. And if
let's
we're
talk
honest,
about the Bengals wide receiver core, right? So AJ Green, he's going to be number one if he's healthy. Yeah, you got
right. Let's
find that. Tyler Boyd probably going to be the number two. You've got John Ross, who's obviously a talented player when healthy, but can't seem to stay fit. But he had a couple of really eye-catchingly big games. You got Auden Tate, who was starting to really come on, and now you've got T. Higgins. So that's 5 receivers plus all the the tight ends as well. So where does T. Higgins fit in the pecking order and opportunity-wise? Where
there is an opportunity out for him to come in and establish a role, but there are several things working against him. First of all, there are a lot of players there. I'm not even adding Green in the equation because he's been broken for a long time, and you know how off I am on him, and I've been off him for a few years. That doesn't change. I'm afraid.
There's no value. AJ Green, he's brilliant. He's untouchable. You leave him alone. People are going to be sleeping on him this year because I'll be.
Yeah, there's a reason to sleep on him. You can just sleep while.
I'm not having it.
Well, you keep picking him ahead of me, and I'm very happy you keep doing that. Well done. You keep proving me wrong by keep picking him. That's what I'd say. Eventually, you've got to be right, and then you can ram it down my throat.
To be fair, I only picked him once last year. I didn't with the injury and that.
No. There's not a lot to beat out really, but the truth is, it's a bit of a problem area. I mean,
it's going to be a lot of voids. Kind of solid, isn't he?
Look, let's just be really, really honest. Okay, look, let's just do it this way. If I said to you, what kind of defenses in fantasy are you looking to pick for the first week of any fantasy season? It's against rookie quarterbacks, right? So, I mean, it's going to have a very tough. It's going to be a very tough start for him in the NFL. He could mature into a very high caliber. He's got every chance. He's going to have a few years at Cincinnati. Got every chance, right, to do something. But it is really, really difficult to come in and make impact in the NFL. And with the team around him, the only stable pick that I really like about the Cincinnati, the only thing I really like about them, obviously, is Joe Mixon. And he's had to work incredibly hard with what one would argue is a really bad line. And Burrows is going to have to do the same thing.
Well, they have got their first round pick from last year. Didn't really play, did he? So he's back this year. So that might improve.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a little bit. Yeah, they've got the potential to. It's a team that at least is moving. At least is moving in the right direction. So there is. If you're a Cincinnati Bengal fan, and we've certainly got them in our leagues. All right, it's only one of them, but we've still got one. It's still got two. They say it's two. That's good. And we got a lot of leagues. It's 2 fairs. That's good for you, Bengals. It's been hard. I know what it's like as a Rams fan. It's damn hard. You have some bad years, bad decades, right? Cincinnati maybe are turning a corner. So Higgins this year, no. Not even in redraft, no. Best ball, no. Maybe next year. We can reevaluate them. But for this year,
you know what I think? And I see when I see him, I think it's not going to be a great year for him. Will he be worth less at the end of this year than he is now? And I think yes, he will. And maybe he'll be a target low player next year. You know, someone who's going to have less value, but you know,
you're right. You know, you can pick a first. You're right. You can pick a first-round caliber player, maybe up next year off someone who's given up on him for a lot cheaper than
people like N'Keal Harry. He was going 102, 103 last year, but you can pick him up really cheap now because you know he had a very let's say indifferent year, putting it kindly. Obviously,
he did. Yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? So,
well, I liked him a lot coming in last year, and the thing is, I still do. If I've got him in Dynasty, I've got a couple of shares of him. I'm still going to hold because you know quarterback change now. We don't know what's coming, so let's see. Maybe there's a better play, but it's going to be an investment. It's going to be an investment of time. I know with N'Keal Harry, the same as Higgins. Even this year, even if it's kinder, it's still going to be another year of building. You know, it's going to be a couple of years before we see anything.
And that's the thing sometimes with receivers, isn't it?
You know,
it happens a lot. People, the NFL teams don't really trust them until late in the first year, really. I mean, they are the odd exception, but...
Yeah, but even the ones that broke out...
We've talked about it before.
Even the ones that broke out last year, rookies-wise, that broke out, took several weeks before they got established, and that's with all the OTAs. So...
Yeah, McLaurin was the exception, but the rest of them...
Yeah, he was definitely an exception from the get-go, but the others took time to establish. When they established, they were great. You know, I'm not knocking them. You know, AJ Brown, brilliant.
I think, obviously, Hollywood Brown, he did have a good first week against the Dolphins, who were atrocious, but and then he sort of disappeared slowly as you went along the season. We saw less.
Well, yes, we did. Now there's something here. I'll say it. He's a player to watch for this year. Just come back and watch videos later in the year and I'll explain why. Just keep an eye out, right? Just be ready because there's something here that I think people are missing. So he's a very interesting player here. Marquise Brown, don't be surprised that, you know, there's a really interesting caliber of a player building there in that team and the way they're setting themselves up. He certainly, as you say, had highs and lows year one, but very interesting player. So just watch out for him. Just keep an eye out. Try to target him if you can. Not high in redraft or anything. Don't do any of that nonsense. Do as Al says always. Get the value. If the player falls to a certain point in most drafts, then target him there. Don't over-evaluate. But best ball and those kind of auction kind of leagues where his price is very low, capitalize. Get some shares because I've got a really good feeling about why he's going to do well. So just thought I'd mention it here in the video, and I'll talk more about that later.
So a player worth picking up for like a late first, maybe early second, if you can in your league, in your Dynasty.
If you can get him, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can get him, worth it. Because a lot of people, like you say, giving up a little bit because they had that early burst.
Yeah, I mean, if you can swap him for T. Higgins, I think that's a good bit of business probably for that sort of pick. 140.
I would genuinely, honestly do it. I really would, and I will talk more on this later because I know you're absolutely right. We should save some of the big bangs for later. So we'll talk more about this as we near the season. But just bear it in mind when you're drafting. You'll notice, and as well for those that are in that league, and for anybody that's in any of the other leagues that I'm in with them, how many times I've picked up Marquise Brown this year is almost a joke. I've got him everywhere. I mean, there isn't a league I have not picked him up in redraft, best ball, or anything. I'm targeting him heavily. You must know that there's a reason. So if I believe in him,
I know I'm drafting ahead of you next time, just out of spite. That's just the way.
Well, I don't blame you. I honestly, got lots of shares of him, and I really do think he's going to be, particularly in those leagues, best ball, redraft league, because it's such a low premium. You're not paying a big price. You always say to me about capitalise on the value. Well, I think with him you do. I think it's an easy one. So just thought I'd mention it here.
The players that could really outperform their value, and that's how you win at fantasy. I think good solid team to start with some good running backs and solid value later on.
If you've any doubt on Marquise Brown, I understand the doubt, but wait till you see what I'm going to do and talk about him later. And I will make some very interesting predictions on him, and we'll see how that plays out next year. So yeah. Anyway, enough on him.
Yeah, we're doing a rookie draft, and we're talking about Marquise Brown.
Well, it's relevant because they're players. I would call them. They're kind of super rookies. So you've got last year's rookies, and you're kind of comparing them to this year. So you need to bring some of those comparisons in, I feel, because it's right in videos like this.
You've got to weigh up, with rookie fever, whether you'd rather have your pick 114 and get a shiny new toy, or pick up someone like Marquise Brown, who went.
And a lot of them,
fairly decent rookie season.
A lot of them don't stay shiny toys for long. They often turn out to be broken toys, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we talked about Joe Burrow. You can go and watch that video if you want to. if you want to send nasty comments to Sean, that's fine.
Please do. Yeah, but do remember, I said to these people, all these people have commented on that video. Please watch it. Listen, let me tell you something. If this guy year one, don't come back to me and say, well, he struggled year one because he's a rookie quarterback. Yeah, that's obvious. Wait till year two then, right?
Okay, well, we'll leave that there. You're going to come back there. We'll leave that for another video.
I'm defending my position. Anyway, moving on.
I'm happy. I'm on the side of the haters. I think they points.
But you're on the side of the haters.
Yeah,
before the video.
I had to set up all them accounts to abuse you. It wasn't.
Thank you. That's right. Thanks for doing it.
Talked about Joe Burrow. So Brandon Ayuk, obviously, San Francisco he landed, didn't he? So they lost.
Yeah, like it.
Sanders. Dante Pettis seems to have lost his form, his head. I don't know what's going on.
I think this pick here kind of at this part of the draft is very interesting because I would say right till now, so we're at pick 17. I think he definitely deserves to be inside the top 20. Definitely Ayuk. I think Ayuk's a really good pick at this point of the draft. I think he's got an opportunity year one. I think he's got a chance above some of these other wide receivers year one. I like that pick. I think that's a really solid pick here.
Oh, remember we had a 115. Who are we missing? Because 115 you won't see, but the winner of the to give the sort of
didn't I pick the 115 on this?
Yeah,
one?
Who did you pick?
I can't remember. That's how memorable it was.
That's how good he is. I'm trying to think. He's not on the list. Who was it?
I don't know if it was in the Megalodon. I got the 115. I'm not sure it was that league. Yeah, I certainly had the 115. I think it was a different league. I had the 115. I think it was your other league, Kraken. I had the 115. We'll talk about that later. Now I do remember that one, but this league I don't think I had it.
No, let me just have a look who it would have been.
The 115.
It was you, Michael Pittman.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah. Mr. Pittman, I forgot all about it.
Michael Pittman. Yeah,
I do apologise, Mr. Pittman. Well, I think it was sneaky. This was done earlier. This draft was one of the very first drafts that would have been done rookie-wise this year anywhere in the world. Definitely. I think it's very sneaky business at 115. I think Pittman's value has started to climb, and it's been climbing, and he is getting some. You look at some of the more recent drafts where Pittman might have gone 17 or 18, and I would say I picked him a little high here, but I picked him. It's only marginal, 2 or 3 places. One could argue either way, but he's now actually. I've seen him going at 110, 111 range.
Well, that's more his consensus value now. The Colts actually said about him. I was a big fan.
You sold me on him.
I did tell him to you.
You sold me.
I just like his player, and he's a sort of physical player. He'll battle for the ball. I love that in a player, and that's what the Colts see as well. Because they were saying they think he can contribute from year one, which is what
you know what I saw. You know what I saw from him. I mean, I totally took on board all that you said. I had to reevaluate him and then think. Al made some great points, and every time you said something, I couldn't, as much as I really wanted to criticise you. Obviously, I couldn't. And I kept, I had to keep. I thought, okay, that's a fair point. So I kept moving. It kept moving like a point every time you said something when we were sat down and discussing him. I went, yeah, that's a fair point. And then I kept thinking, okay, where is he on my board? I better move him forward a little bit. And then it was another point, and then another point. I thought, Jesus, he's moved up my board a lot, and he has. And then
he's moving up other people's boards as well, so people are catching up, which is annoying.
And then there was another reason. The other reason to this was very simple. Now, before this we did all this evaluating I did a lot previously. Then we came together and we kind of looked at everything in a fresh pair of eyes, which was a great way of doing it. And then I made my mind up at that point. I liked him, so that was it. At that stage, I was sold, and I put him on my board. And then something happened for real, where he went to the Colts, and they'd already previously taken Jonathan Taylor. Now, as much as I know that, I like CEH and I like Taylor, and I like them for totally different reasons. Okay. And I've always said that Jonathan Taylor could be in a year, not this year, but maybe next year or the year after, he's a back who could get 2,000 yards. And I really do believe that. I believe that because of the line, because of the team, because of everything. So that the team is moving towards a kind of a running first mentality. Now, where this really benefits Mr. Pittman is the fact that if I'm right, he's going to come in and within 2 years, not necessarily this year, but within 2 years, he's going to be their number one wide receiver there. And then when you've got the kind of pressure that Jonathan Taylor brings to an offensive coordinator who has to put men in the box, you've got to, that's when he's going to really be big value. Pittman in a year or two, he's going to be massive. So I'm really excited to see what he can do this year.
Colt It's going to be excellent to watch, isn't it? But I only wish Andrew Luck was there because it's a real shame we lost him.
Oh, isn't it just so typical?
I mean, how good would that have been?
Can you imagine Andrew Luck, Jonathan Taylor, and Michael? Oh God, the sky would have been the limit. I mean, what value would have Pittman gone then? I mean, God knows.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be talking 1.8, 1.9.
Well, probably. It's a shame, but it is what it is. But very exciting nevertheless, and I'm very interested to see how he does year one. I like his at 115. It's absolutely a fabulous dart throw. I really have no problem. And I feel my value on him is increasing. All right, it's before the season, so it doesn't really matter much. But you do feel good that you picked later and got good value for him at the pick you got him for. So I do.
Obviously, well, let's go to pick. This will be pick 18 now. Brandon there's definitely an opportunity with San Francisco, isn't there, to get a role. Whether it's, Debo looks a good player, he's another player I really like for this year as well. Debo Samuel.
Well, I think Brandon Ayuk is an excellent prospect for San Francisco, and I do think he's going to have a carved out role quite quickly, and I do like his opportunity there. And again, at this point of the draft, it's brilliant for you because you're getting a playmaker from year one who could be very good enough to flex in from time to time. And not only that, but looking forward, you've got to feel comfortable taking him, and you've got to feel that, there's a real chance for you here that this player matures into something much more year 2 and 3. So you've got to feel good about that pick.
Absolutely. I'm just going to have a look at their depth chart because you got just to see, the sort of wide receivers that he's competing with. Obviously, we know about Debo Samuel. Who else have we got? So we got Jalen Hurd, who obviously spent most of the year on IR, didn't he, last year? So he was a rookie coming in.
We really haven't seen much of him yet, so we don't know.
We got Richie James, who's been like special teams slot player. Kendrick Bourne, who he scored 6 or 7 touchdowns last year. Kendrick Bourne, and we got Dante Pettis.
Yeah, he flashed. He had flashed. Yeah, he had flash moments. I think Ayuk is just a great fit for San Francisco. Talk about fits. I mean, I just think it is the perfect fit for him. And I think for his skill set and the kind of way they like to operate, I mean, there's a real chance for this guy, a real chance to do well here. And at this value, 17th, 18th pick off the board, I mean, great. Nothing wrong with it there. You're happy with that.
Okay. Chase Claypool landed in Pittsburgh. Obviously, they've got Deontay Johnson, James Washington. They're the sort of third behind Juju, probably.
Isn't this interesting here? Because again, this has been taken by the same chap who took Gordon, who took Antonio Gibson in round 1. Now, this is really interesting. This shows Gordon's. I might be hard on him on that first pick, saying get your value, but this is where him going early has proved to be really valuable. Now, I've been all over Chase Claypool in a lot of these leagues where he's fallen outside that top 20 picks. When he falls later, I've grabbed him then. And look how his value has climbed. Yeah. He really is climbing value.
I like
and that is, I really like the opportunity that he has. And I think this is a really good bit of business down here. I mean, at 19, you could argue getting 2 a tackle over, but it depends on your team. You might not need it.
Chase,
you might not. Yeah, I'm just saying you might could argue Tua Tagovailoa at 19, maybe, or 20 or whatever. But for me, I love Chase Claypool down here, and I love this pick, and I think he's going to prove to be a very good bit of business there.
Yeah, it depends what you need for your team, doesn't it? Really, if you're happy with your quarterbacks, then
then you go after other players.
A piece he could do. We don't know he's going to shake out the pack really at Pittsburgh. Really, even with Juju. I mean, obviously he looks at number one, but
I think. You see, I think what's interesting is Juju. I think Juju is. Again, you preach to me about getting players at the right moment. Now, last year, I was very anti Juju last year, which again didn't make any sense. Okay, because nothing was broken, everything looked right. But I've not been happy with the Pittsburgh organisation, fantasy-wise. In my mind, there's a few things that worried me. We've been very correct about how James Conner works or doesn't work or what's going to happen. So we kind of flip-flop every year and got it right on what's going to happen from year to year. And Juju Smith-Schuster this year is going to be fantastic. And he's going at a great value, in redraft and, auction league prices and everything. It's a great value. So you would definitely capitalise. And the beneficiary of that is their second guy, because Pittsburgh are a fucking wide receiver. Sorry to swear, but they are a wide receiver machine at picking out wide receivers. They really are brilliant at developing them. So Chase Claypool, what an opportunity. He could be very special. At this point of the draft, love that. Absolutely love it. And I liked him for a long time. And I think he's another one that's fallen perfect. Great fit.
Yeah, so if you're picking around here, he's definitely a good option, I think. AJ Dillon, I know exactly why. He's going around here anyway, but St. Louis he's got Aaron Jones as well, so it makes sense to sort of try and lock up that backfield. I'm sure Jamal Williams is trolling him.
I actually think it's quite sensible drafting. I mean, you've already got Jones, and you want to make sure you can keep the lockdown going, and that makes sense. And I think it's a great pick. I mean, actually, at this part, you could argue that his value we've seen in drafts, he's gone higher than this. AJ Dillon
in the first round.
He's gone higher, so it's good business down here. I like the fact that there's likely to be some kind of role there for him straight away. And no matter what anybody thinks, the person that really hurt from this is Aaron Jones. And yet Aaron Jones is still going inside the top 13 running backs in any draft format.
And I personally think there still. So,
and I think that's quite tough because, I understand why people would pick him, but it's not absolutely guaranteed with the organisation, the way they've gone, and the way they've put down these picks. The people that've got the biggest rub against them, not saying they can't produce, will be Aaron Rodgers and Jones, who now obviously face immediate competition. And are going to be, there may be opportunities for the other players now. If something happens, what's one slight faltering, in comes Dillon, and Rodgers could also.
Jones is out of contract, isn't he, at the end of the year? So it's probably insurance for them as well, as much as anything if they can't.
Well, I think the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario for the Dillon pick here from St. Louis is he gets limited carries year one, but we get to see what he's about. By year two, he could well be a starter and worth a lot more than this pick.
Yeah, so totally okay with that pick. Brian Edwards, he's the one that gone to the Raiders with Ruggs, but it sounds like again they want him to, feature from the start. So you can see he's a prototypical wide receiver, more so than your speedster in Ruggs. I totally get this pick. I was very happy to get Chenault, actually.
I bet you were, yeah.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised that Chenault fell this far. He hasn't fallen this far in any other draft I've seen, I have to be honest. I've not seen where he's fallen that far.
Pick 22, so, I was very happy to get him there.
I get it's quite close. I mean, it is very close because Edwards is kind of in this range in most drafts. He's kind of in this area. So it's kind of, I understand if you've got a man you want to get, this is kind of, if you prefer this guy over the other guy, that's what you do.
Yeah, and totally. There's not a lot in it. I just like Chenault. Chenault's more of a project. I think he's going to, they're talking about, he is the sort of guy you can line up in the Wildcat and do lots of weird things. And they said they're going to use him that way, which is, okay, well, they're going to put a rookie in at Wildcat. So that's going to be interesting watching them. So,
Well, I think Chenault has, again, he's another player that can carve out a role, and we might be looking back. You might be very, very happy getting him here, and I totally agree, because at this part you're starting to take shots in drafts, but this is a great shot, really good shot. I'm more concerned about Edwards, if I'm honest. I've got more reservations around him. And because
I quite like him, and he's got an opportunity. I like that about him as well. Especially that you're not paying, he's in the 20s, so it's not like you're paying high price. I totally get it. I really do.
But it's only my personal maybe biases in terms of, sometimes you see offences and you have concerns that affects the other guys who are auxiliary pieces. But it could be why this could be a very good pick is because it could end up that he's actually better value than Ruggs. So that's the way it could fall, And so at this part of the draft, when it's splitting hairs one player or the other, I really quite like it.
Right. Now we got 3 picks from Dan, who's Otley Road, and he had 3 in the first round as well. He's had a lot of picks in these rookie drafts.
Yeah.
Tua, you can't argue with Tua. It's a very solid pick. And his pretty much his strategy was to lock up as many running backs as he could. So he's picked.
Yeah, well,
one from Pittsburgh and one from the Titans.
He did, and there's certainly, it's quite interesting. But the big issue he's got here is, I like Tua. I've got no problem over that pick, and I think at this part of the draft he's actually got a bargain, because more often than not, Tua's going a lot higher than that. He's going about 5 or 6 spots higher up the board, so that's a good half a round buying power that you probably wouldn't normally see. So that's very, very good there. And I don't blame him for taking Tua. So that's easy to discuss. I won't go any further. I think he could easily be, from year one, the best quarterback in the group here to start year one. I know there's not a lot to say there, but he really could. He could be very good.
He could be.
And I'm excited to see him in the field. Now, Anthony McFarland is a project, an absolute project. It's a 4th round running back. If you want the percentages for 4th round running backs working, your odds are 6%. And I'm going to say this now, that at that part of the draft, that is a big, big price. Now, Anthony McFarland is going. A lot of drafts are about this sort of range now. So at the time, that looked a little high, right? But now, that doesn't. But I'm going to say it, 6% chance. So you tell me whether you want a 6% chance or not, because that's the reality. And if anybody wants to really debate this even further, I'll even go this far and say this. 2 years ago, we told you Connor would succeed. Last year, we told you he'd bust. This year, I'm going to tell you he will succeed again. That's the way that they are, Pittsburgh. Connor's going to come back. So Connor's going to be great value. This guy will have some role, but it's going to be very limited. I've got mega reservations over Mr. McFarland, over being a success in the NFL. I'm not sure on him at all. I'm not sold. I just think at this part of the draft, I totally get it. You want to take shots. And when you start looking around the players that are around, I think it's a good pick because of the value of McFarland in a lot of other drafts. But I'm not sold on 6% chances and never will be. So I'm playing what you taught me, which is combine your intuition with knowledge, put the two together, and always look for the best value you can in every draft. So for me here, I would have swerved every time, and I won't be picking him. And that's just the way it is. I
totally get what he's doing now. I mean, if he can hit one of these running backs here and they become something, the value is, exponential, isn't it, for your future?
Well, if it can be, but you could have nothing from Cam Akers, nothing from McFarland, nothing. So you can end up very quickly with nothing, and then you have nothing to trade with.
None of them come with a guarantee, do they? Probably.
No. And I know this personally because I've done the same sometimes, and when it works, and it has worked sometimes, it is great. But there are times, and I've been exactly in this place, so I know what this is like. It can be bad. We could look back in a year and go, genius, well done. But we could also look back and say, kind of obvious, we saw it coming. And that isn't fair because it's easy always looking back. But I'm just being honest. People wanted us to be brutally honest here. And that's what we want to do for people's draft rules, be really honest. That is a 6% chance. That's the reality. Now, if it hits, you're right. That's brilliant. But that's a 6% chance based on the last 17 years of NFL knowledge. And that's the reality of the situation. It is really hard for a running back to come out of the 4th round and do well.
If you got 2 of them, you got a 12% chance. So,
Well, it doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. I could buy 1 million lottery tickets, but it doesn't mean I'm going to win the lottery.
No, it doesn't.
But it means I've got more chances. It just doesn't mean I'm going to win. But it's worth taking the shot, definitely. And I do think, at the time I thought it was a bit high, but in the way drafts have gone, Anthony McFarlane has kind of gone a little higher than this now. So I do respect that pick, but it's just I personally won't be taking it.
Yeah, you can see the angle. Pittsburgh haven't really got a cast iron number one. James Conner is the number one, but you just don't know.
He's got it all. He's got it. Yeah, he's got it all to prove this year, but it is his contract year, so it's a big year for him, and I've got a feeling he'll amazingly prove it this year. So,
okay, well, let's just see out the last sort of 4 picks in this round. Tyler Johnson, red zone threat, Buccaneers. He's going a lot lower in a lot of drafts, which is quite surprising because, they did. I mean, there's definitely opportunity. Well, kind of, I suppose. You've got Evans and you've got Godwin, haven't you? So,
yeah, I know. Again, this is
and a few others lurking about.
You talk about value. I think you can get this player lower. So for me, I don't see where the value is year one here because there's too much ahead of him.
I think he's around this value, but not in our drafts. This is the only one he's sort of gone this high.
I've not seen him go as high as this in other drafts, but that doesn't mean. I mean, we're only talking a few picks back in the third kind of thing, but again, you're taking shots, and it is real shots here. They're all shots. So
Gordon does his research. He watches tape, so
he's very good. This player is one of the. I bet this is a player that you don't hear much about year one because he's very good at this, Gordon. You don't hear much about in year one, and then suddenly from somewhere in year two, there's an injury, and this guy comes out of the pack because that's the way Gordon's really good like that.
Yeah, he is. Justin Herbert, solid pick down here. Got no problem with that. He got pick 6 overall. Was it by the Chargers? So definitely,
it's a future pick, and rightly so, and he could prove dividends quite quickly. I've no problem with Herbert here. That seems sensible. It's you can always trade quarterbacks for second round picks, so I don't think that's a big problem. And given he's picking late, that's good value.
Yeah, I mean, I then took Joshua Kelly from the Chargers, not because I'm particularly that excited about him, but just because Eckler's a smaller back. He's different to Eckler, basically. I just think, he could get goal line carries if Eckler struggles there, but he's a big.
Well, it's a very interesting pick there because I think Eckler. I really enjoyed taking Eckler last year in certain leagues, and again that was real fun to do. But I do worry about Eckler this year because he's going very high. He's going inside.
I mean, are you getting the value on Eckler now? Is he a pick 11 type of player?
No, I mean the problem is that's what you're going to have to pay. We know in our large leagues that running back 11 that's not the end of round 2 or early third. For us, that's round 1. In these large leagues, that means he's got to go round 1. So I understand why he's going there, and I would say you could argue there's not a lot to beat out.
He hasn't got anything to beat out, has he, really?
No, but he has to be given. He can't be given a full load. So Jordan Kelly might have an opportunity. Yeah, Joshua. Sorry, he might have an opportunity to do, as you say, goal line work to start with, but it could be also, relief work because Justin Jackson, he's been a bit of a plodder, really, 6 to 10 touches a game without doing a lot. The kind of Chargers need someone who could do a little bit more than that. So I think this is a really interesting pick here because, what if he gets 30% or 40% eventually, later on in the season and muscles out Justin Jack? It's worth a shot here. So I get that a lot. I mean, the same can be said about Anthony McFarlane. If an opportunity comes, then it could be gold. So in this range, you can see why these running backs are going off the board and why. And the logic behind the thinking is quite sound.
Okay. And so pick 29, Antonio Gandy Golden. And Antonio Gandy Golden. And he is somebody that you are very keen on. I know.
Yeah, I love that here. I mean, again, we've seen his value anywhere. And this is really interesting because he went at the back end. He's picked 29 here, but you can move him up maybe even 10 or 12 spots here in some leagues. He's in that people are starting to catch up a bit with him.
I think he's somebody who splits opinion. People either love him or they're not buying into him.
Well, yeah, this may well be sum up his NFL career, actually, because he is going to be a bit Marmite-y, because he could be very, very, very good. I think he's got a really interesting chance to do well at the next level. I feel he fell to the right team here. And I like this pick at 29 a great deal because it's a shot. It's a shot to nothing. I'd take it. I genuinely would take that shot. So I totally, and I have done in some leagues where I could get him later. I've normally got Antonio Golden in the third round. If I can get him in the third, I'll take a third round shot on him. If he's not there, I move on to other targets. But at this point, it's almost the third round. I absolutely love that pick. I mean, it's a shot to nothing, and it's a good one.
And there is a 215 that you can't see. I was just looking up who it was, actually. It's Van Jefferson, who went to the Rams. Missed the combine, I believe, because he was injured. He's got a lot. But he could be. He's got a lot of traction.
Well, he's got a lot of traction, Van Jefferson. But I would make the case that the problem is it's the Rams. And we got a lot of wide receivers as well. We got a lot of players in the Rams, and maybe year one more special teams based Van Jefferson, and maybe a little bit of special gadgety plays. Longer term, maybe there is a real good opportunity, but I think you've got to be, at that point, 30th pick, no problem. Not an issue. I don't have a problem taking him there. That's fine.
All right.
It might take a couple of years.
Right. I want you to pick. We're not going to go through every play in round 3, or we'll be here forever. So,
yeah, sure.
You pick two or three players that you like in round 3.
Well, I like the pick here done by catch me eye. I like the pick done here by Sam here, KJ Hamler at that value.
He's another speed guy in Denver, isn't he?
Well, I like that because I think they've got two really great receivers now in Courtland Sutton and Judy, and you put this guy could be a slot guy, and that's got a huge value for a quarterback like Locke, who's going into his, is coming out of his first kind of year of production. I think he could really benefit. So I really like that pick here. I'm not saying that Mr. Hamler is going to be something exceptional, but I just think that he could be a very interesting prospect for the first season and season ahead. And, let's be honest, he's not going to be covered by the best safeties or corners in the game, is he? So great opportunity for him to do well. So that shines out. What would you pick? Which pick would you pick here? In the third round
I'm going to give you a couple, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a tip if you're drafting.
Sure.
Devin Duvernay, who George picked there, he's someone I've got my eye on. Played his college football in Texas. I think he's a very good player.
Been growing up
landed with the Ravens, didn't he? So he's somebody I'd definitely like down in round 3. Potentially explosive player. When I looked at his highlights, I liked him a lot. Another guy I liked a lot, who landed with the Ravens, is James Prosh, who I picked at the end. He has got a highlight tape to die for. Whether he can transfer it to the NFL, I just liked him. He was exciting. He made things happen.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing. Well, and that offense is just, high scoring. So, he's got to beat out people like Woody Snead and that. So I'm not worried.
Yeah, I think those two, the picks you've mentioned, they've definitely been players that have been heavily touted by our leagues. And I really like the thinking behind those guys. I like also DJ Dallas here in the third round as a running back flyer prospect, not because I think he's super talented or anything. It's just because Carson's coming back from a big injury. Penny's coming back from a big injury. So why wouldn't you want to take a shot at a player like this who might end up being thrust into a role of some kind? That seems like really good value here. If you were evaluating some of these running backs, some of them don't have a clear path to any kind of work at all. This guy could quite quickly have some work. So I really like it. And they're not frightened to run the ball, Seattle. So they pick a running back for a reason. So I like that. He is still slim odds to make it, but I think it's an interesting pick. The other player I like in this round, Jordan Love. Longer term, great value.
Yeah.
Just think it's brilliant in the third round.
Middle of the third round. That's great, isn't it? In fact, he got
great value.
There. He picked up some Jalen Hurts as well, back to back. Dan there.
Yeah, I really like it because you know it's a player you can just let marinate on the bench, and you just know it's going to end up being a player in Green Bay. They've got a great pedigree of finding quarterbacks. You know, who am I to argue if you go up and take a player that you don't know what you're doing? I mean, that would be mental to say that. You know, Jordan Love has an opportunity now. He's in a quarterback town, as they say, you know, and we'll see how it plays out. Certainly do. So I'm not going to derate that. I think that's a really good bit of business here at this point of the draft.
Okay, one little tip I'll give you, and I'm not sure how good a player he is, but they picked him in the 3rd round, and that's Lynn Bowden Jr. from the Raiders. He's going to play a bit of running back and a bit of wide receiver. They really like his skill set. How much you get in the field, I don't know, but he's actually on sleeper rankings. When he first started, he was down in the thousands, and this guy was picked in the 3rd round. So if your league sleep on him, I think he's down in the rankings of 800 or something now, and he shouldn't be that low. I mean, there's undrafted players that are miles higher than him. So it's just a little tip if you're drafting on sleeper, keep an eye on him because he slips out of people's memory because he's so far down the rankings, people forget he's there.
Yep,
so just a little tip. Is there anyone else you want to talk about? I've got one other player. Darrell Stewart. Darrell Stewart is the actual guy that Green Bay actually signed, the wide receiver they actually picked up. So I take it he got drafted, but they like him. So
I've got my favourite sleeping quarterback taken here in round 4. I've been trying to target him everywhere. I can talk about it here. We talked about our rankings. So I said in my rankings that Tua's number 1. I've always said that Burrows was number 3 in those rankings. My number 2 is Jacob Eason.
Really?
Yeah. So ahead of even Jordan Love and Herbert. And the reason is not because he is a project, but just think about the team he's gone to for a minute. So if you just think about that for a second, just think about that team and who's ahead of him at the moment.
Well, yeah.
This guy's...
I know, yeah.
This guy has fallen in the right situation. He's got an opportunity to sit on the bench for a couple of seasons, which he's going to do. He's going to do nothing for 2 years. He's going to be a name that's going to be forgotten about. Next year, no one will remember his name. You probably won't hear much about him at all. And then he's got a massive arm. So, like let's talk about a few of the quarterbacks that we picked out that were not the number one.
Jacob Eason landed with the Colts, didn't he? So he's only got Rivers ahead of him. He probably got year 2 less than most.
Yeah, and we talked about Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. And my argument is always going to be about they're building a brilliant team for the future. They know exactly what they were doing when they took this pick. I looked the moment they took him, I went, that was always my number 2. Now he's my number 2 for definite, and I know exactly what they're doing. Now the good thing is, as much as I absolutely detest Rivers in terms of fantasy wise, as a quarterback, I detest him at fantasy. He cost me a championship last year.
Yeah, I quite like
That's
it.
all I'm going to say. I bet you love him now, don't you? Anyway, what I'll say about him is this, right? Let me say this about him, okay? What I do respect is obviously he is a good quarterback. In the grand scheme of things, he's in that top middle, he's in that he's 16 to 20 range in NFL, which it doesn't sound exciting for fantasy and isn't. But he's a steady, solid professional, and he's a good quarterback at that level, right? There are only 32 trigger men any year, and he rightly deserves to be right up there. And the 32 in the world, that's how good they are, right? There's only 32 at any one time, any season, maybe a few more with injuries, but the reality is only a handful. They are all brilliant. But why he's really good for Eason, he's a really great teacher. And I've heard nothing but brilliant things about him mentoring other quarterbacks and young coordinators.
Isn't the thing, even the Colts themselves, right? When I was looking at what they said about all the players, they were very glowing about Pittman. They were very glowing about Taylor. And they said, Eason, yeah, we know he's got, accuracy problems, but he's not going to be our 1. He's not going to be our 2. He's going to compete for a roster spot at 3. We're going to work on his accuracy. But we don't think it's as bad as other people do. It's not exactly glowing.
Right, well, hold on, right? So let's just wind it back, right? So people who look at this and go, Eason too, are you sure? remember, these are the same people that criticised us for talking about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I don't think they worked out too bad. And I told people, Andrew Locke. We've told you before. This is a skill in itself. This guy, just get him 4th round, whatever 5th round, whatever you can get him. Just put him on the bench. I've done it a few times. Put him on the bench, marinate him along, and he will be worth far more than a 4th round pick. In fact, he might be a player that carries your team. So I really like him. And as for this accuracy nonsense, look, he is picked. He's in the NFL, right? We're not talking the next Tom Brady. We're not talking that here. What we're talking about is a prospect. If you're looking at prospects and who's got the capability, this guy's got the arm strength of Josh Allen. These guys can throw the ball 80 yards. Now, you might say, people criticised Josh Allen till last year. Now, they're looking at him. He finished 7th in standard. They talk about accuracy issues. He finished 7th in standard, right? And he hasn't even got started yet. Eason's that kind of guy.
Legs, doesn't he? That really helps.
Oh, yeah, but Eason as well. This guy is very interesting because he can do things with a football in terms of throwing ability and power that, we've seen some brilliant things from Mahomes. We've seen some brilliant things from some of these quarterbacks. And I'm not even beginning to debate that. And he's not on those levels because he's got to prove it yet. But if you want to pick from nowhere that can turn it into something like gold, that's why he's number 2 on my board, because he's got all the things I'm looking for as a coordinator. Work ethic, attitude, heart, desire, intention. There's a lot of reasons people have accuracy issues, right? I'm going to be honest. As a quarterback, I know it's easy to blame other players, right? It really is. And there are times when I want to thought this to myself. I wanted to go up and actually say to someone, for God's sake, catch the ball, yeah. That's all you got to do is catch it. But he was really let down a lot. There were some really bad things where, he had loads of plays called back. It was the most ridiculous stat in college football this guy's had. So I don't want to even talk about accuracy issues. Wait and see how he matures, because that is a sleeper there. That's a really good pick. That's good value at 4th round. In a
14-team league as well. So
I don't think I had a pick in that round. That's why I didn't manage to get him here. So
we can actually have a look. The good thing about sleeper is you can click on you and you can look at who you picked.
I had a pick at the end of that round. I know that Eason, I can definitely say Eason was on my board because the pick afterward.
Who is James Morgan? I thought he made rum. I mean, what is he? I see you. Now, what is he?
James Morgan. Now it's a bit. I had a lot of late round flyers here, so I've this is quite good to actually. I picked. I would have taken Eason, so he was gone. So I took From because I believe that Jake From there will be worth more than that 5th round pick. Now, the Washington tight ends, I felt, has a chance to do.
I like him. He's undrafted. I was very surprised he went undrafted. I know the Patriots were sniffing around him. A few teams, he had 7 calls or something after the draft. But he went to Washington because they were the first team to call him.
I don't really like any of the tight ends in the 5th round I've got, if I'm honest. I don't like any of the tight. I took them because I've got 3 in, not because I've got a tight end issue.
I think you might be happy with Moss. I think he's going to be...
Yeah, I like him because at least I can try and see if one of them breaks out of the pack. Anyway, but James Morgan... Morgan is... He's the 8th quarterback off my board.
So who's he played for? Who's he played for?
What college?
Yeah.
Do you know, in all fairness...
No, I mean, who did he play? Oh, he played for the Jets. Oh, right, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he hasn't got a lot to be out to be the backup, has he?
Right, so the reason I've taken him, he's actually 8th on my board, which is about where he is here, really, to be honest. Now, he'll go a lot of drafts undrafted and probably slip through onto waivers.
I imagine he will, yeah. He wasn't on my radar at all.
But for all of these guys at the end here, the reason I put him on is because I was looking at, like, I keep saying it now. I hate to keep saying it, but I keep using your value thing, and I keep thinking, okay, which player is potentially going to yield me the most value? If it busts, I haven't lost much, and if it works out, I've gained a lot. And that's what I've tried to do with all those picks. So with him, he's an interesting player. I haven't loaded him onto too many teams. I've taken him in a couple of leagues where they're bigger. Just purely because it's an opportunity. We'll know after the first year where he is in a pecking order. I'm hoping he can finish up the second guy there and have a bit, because Darnold's got a few wobbly injuries.
I think he's still yet to prove that he's good enough to be in NFL.
So I was kind of looking at
there, but
the speculation of the long range, and it'd be interesting to look back and see how that pans out for him. He may be the guy that just quickly gets waived, and I no problem with that. It's 5th round pick, it's a lottery shot. I don't mind there.
You're looking for any sort of angle, aren't you? That's why I picked the Green Bay.
It was really a value pick.
That's why I picked the Green Bay wide receiver, who won't probably be on anyone's radar, Darrell Stewart. They picked him up as an undrafted free agent. But they said they liked him enough, they would have drafted him. If they drafted a receiver, he's the one they'd have drafted.
That's really weird praise.
They didn't draft a wide receiver, though, for whatever reason.
Yeah, if we were going to draft one, which we weren't, we would have picked him at some point.
Opportunity. They didn't pick any other wide receiver.
How does that sound for Rodgers? Listen, mate, we're not going to give you. I'll tell you what we do. We'll go up the board and take this quarterback. Don't worry. 2nd round, we'll start looking at wide receivers. At the end of the draft, don't worry. We'll get one on undrafted.
Yeah, he's great, yeah. I don't know. Like I say, if he does hit, there's opportunity there, isn't there?
He's certainly, again, I like the opportunity. I mean, they've been looking for a second for a while. So, anything could happen there. So
I don't think it's going to be him, but that's the angle. I'm always looking for some sort of angle.
Well, down there, it's worth a shot. I mean, that's what we're looking for is gold, aren't we? We're sifting for real gold in the rough. So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that concludes it. I don't think we're going to go into in-depth on anybody else. But you can see, let's look at Dan's picks were all in the top 2 rounds, 6 of them. I know you've got people like Ian who only picked from round 3 onwards. I think
if you've got
Dan G and he had 1 pick, and that was in the 5th round, and he was quite happy with him. He said he got the bargain of the draft. So,
well, he would say that, wouldn't he? He would say that, of course. I mean, we all think. None of us will know yet, but we'll get a good steer quite quickly. What I will say is this: if you've got a draft board that you want us to dissect, we will be honest with you, and probably because we don't know your league or your teammates, we can be brutally honest, and then after the draft, then you can comment and tell us whether you agree or disagree, same as this board. And if you do disagree with Al...
Dean, actually, because he mentioned it was his the worst draft he's ever had, which he wasn't very happy. So he really wanted...
Oh, really? Okay.
I stole him just before him, so...
Right, he didn't like any of those people he's picked?
No, he didn't like it. No, he didn't like the draft at all. He was gutted. I don't think Shani had a pick in the whole thing, did he? It's only because he's really good with rookies as well, so...
Yeah, sometimes it happens that way.
Like, he got his value elsewhere.
Sometimes it's the way it goes, isn't it? I mean, you've got a good young team there with Kyler Murray, Elliott, Brady. You've got some interesting players in that team. You should do well.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of Breeder. Obviously, he's got Waller.
I mean, if you look at
draft young players, and then there's...
I think if you look at Juju Smith-Schuster in that team and you had a couple of the rookies that you got, I think you've come out of this quite well. Your team looks very solid.
I traded Aaron Jones and I got in Juju Smith-Schuster. I got the 106.
I think you've done well.
I picked up CD Lamb in.
Well, you've got to be happy.
James Conner, who I traded for Zach Moss and Brandon Ayuk, basically. So,
well, you've got to be very happy with that team because of the fact that you traded Jones before the draft. So you got to feel good about that bit of business.
Yeah, the problem I was in, it sort of overachieved first year, and I came runners up, which was a nice prize, to be honest. You get your money back a bit more. But you're left with a sort of low pick, so you kind of have to do a bit of wheeling and dealing to try.
Well, I think you've got a good team. My team was great first year draft. I felt my team I drafted well, but I then had loads of issues with quarterback issues. I was hit with 4 of them. I then had issues with running back. I just seemed to hit every problem you can imagine year one in that team, and I struggled badly in this league. I mean, I think I ended up with 5-6 wins. It was appalling, really, and the team struggled. But this year, it looks like it's building back. I mean, you look at that team now, and I feel a lot more confident. That doesn't show you all of I feel a lot more confident around this team.
Why have you nicknamed him the Prince?
It's Clyde Edwards Prince Hilaire of Bel Air. You see, Prince Hilaire. That's the reason he's called the Prince.
Okay.
Prince Hilaire, you see.
I like the way you put like little top 5 finish 2020 to Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake, he'll be on the bold prediction list. More on that later. Now, that was a great bit of business there.
I like the way you put Lamar Miller by. Oh, no, that means he ain't got a team. But yeah, basically.
They're just sitting there waiting to be. You know what's going to happen with Lamar Miller and Isaiah Crowell, don't you? They're going to end up on somebody's going to pick them up before the season starts. You know that's going to happen. You got some.
We won't. We'll gloss over the rest of it. Yeah,
there's some very interesting little nuggets sitting there.
You call them interesting. Anyway, I think we've talked. I've got a different word for them.
I bet you have. Is it something to do with nuggets?
Well,
could be chicken nuggets.
Right. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. This was part 2 of our going through our high stakes. If you want to see us do some different leagues, we've done plenty, haven't we? We've done loads.
We have.
If you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more, subscribe to the channel, and abuse Sean in the comments as always. I think that's always good.
Hey, listen, turn it round now. Start abusing Al. Let's give him some stuff. Nuggets.
Yeah, I abuse myself. No, that's all right. I shouldn't say that.
Right.
Anyway, thank you
so
much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.